Hi, we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about what third grade students in College Station ISD will be doing in their math classes during the first 9 weeks. This is actually the second of two videos about the first 9 weeks for third grade. So if you missed the part one, you might want to go back and find that. So let's look at an overview. They're going to start off by using place value to solve problems involving addition and subtraction. And that's actually what they're going to spend probably the bulk of their time doing this 9 weeks. And then they'll finish up the 9 weeks by summarizing data to solve problems, which is basically using graphs. And that's what we're about to talk about. They're going to summarize a data set with multiple categories using a frequency table, dot plot, pictograph or bar graph with scaled intervals. And what scaled intervals means is that a piece of data, one part of the graph can stand for more than one piece of data. And that a bar graph would have an interval on the side that is greater than one. Maybe it's counting by twos or by fives or even by 20s eventually. So right here we see an example of a frequency table, sometimes called a tally chart. And this one's about the color of pencils that were sold somewhere. And you can see that it's organized into groups of 5 with tallies. And it's a pretty simple way to represent data. Students are familiar with this from other grade levels. Then they can also create a dot plot. A dot plot is similar to a picture graph in that, there are little pictures of dots there. This one has a key that says that one dot equals one pencil. And that's what we see most frequently is where on a dot plot, each dot represents one piece of data. But it is possible for a dot on a dot plot to represent more than one piece. So more than one piece of data. So they need to look for the key and see if there is a key that gives them the scale of what each dot stands for. And dot plots can be created vertically or horizontally. Here, the columns of dots are going up vertically, but we could have had rows of dots going across horizontally. A pictograph. And a pictograph is an extension of the picture graphs that your students worked on in second grade. With a picture graph, each picture always represented one piece of data, one item or one event, and the pictures were representational. If we were talking about blue pencils, we probably would have seen pictures of blue pencils. If we're talking about red, we would have seen pictures of red pencils. Here in a pictograph, each piece of data, each little element in the graph can stand for more than one thing. For instance, in this key, it says that each picture of a pencil actually equals 2 pencils that were sold. And all the pencils look the same. And we didn't even have to have pencils. We could have just had bars, or we could have had dollar bills. If they could have used anything, it didn't necessarily have to represent exactly the items that we're talking about in the graph. And you will also notice that up on the row for blue, that there are 3 whole pencils, but there's also a picture of half a pencil. So the students have to think about if one picture of a pencil equals 2 pencils, then half of a picture is going to equal just 1 pencil. Here's a bar graph, and you can see that the scale on the left side of the graph is counting by 4s. And so that's a little bit different than the bar type graphs that they've worked on in the past. And so they have to pay attention to that. And they also have to look at bars that don't quite go all the way up to the line. For instance, on blue, that bar is not quite to 8, but it's very close. So if I had to estimate, I would say that there were 7 blue pencils sold. And on the bar for red, it's about halfway. So about halfway between 8 and 12 would be 10. So they have to start thinking about how they can estimate when the bar is not all the way up to the next interval. Then they're also going to solve 1- and 2-step problems using the categorical data represented with a frequency table, dot plot, pictograph, or bar graph with scaled intervals. And here's a 1-step problem that's actually referring back to the graph that we saw. The school store sells different colors of pencils. The graph above shows the number of pencils that were sold last week. How many red and green pencils were sold last week? And so they would come to this graph and they would look at it and they would see how many of those 2 colors were sold and combine them to solve the problem. There's a 2-step problem. The school store sells different colors of pencils. The graph above shows the number of pencils that were sold last week. How many more blue and red pencils combined were sold than green pencils last week? And we say that this is a 2-step problem because they have to perform 2 calculations to arrive at the final answers. It would have to combine the number of blue and red pencils with addition. And after they get that total, then they would compare it with how many green pencils were sold and do some subtraction to find the difference between those numbers. So if you want your child to have some more practice on this skill with graphing or any other skill, a great place to go is our CSISD website. If you go to the www.csisd.org, and you can click on curriculum and then math for parents and go to resources and then click on online resources, you will find tiles that list a wide variety of math topics. And if you click on one of those topics, it will pull up several different websites where your child could go and have very purposeful practice for that specific skill. You can also go directly to csisdmath.weebly.com and find those resources. Thank you for listening. There will be a new set of videos at the beginning of each 9 weeks during the school year to talk about what's coming up in math. And if you listen to those and you still have more questions or need some more clarification, feel free to contact your child's teacher or the math specialist on your campus. The link below will take you to a document that lists all the math specialists in the district and shows which campus that they are on. So you can find the math specialist from your campus and contact them with an email or a phone call, and they'll be glad to talk to you also. Again, thank you for listening and have fun learning math with your child.